Define racism. I would say racism is treating someone differently because of their race. And the idea of race is where you come from and what you look like. And racism is treating someone differently because of that. How is the idea of race linked to racism? Race links directly to racism. Racism is treating someone differently because of their race. So slave codes describe slave codes. Slave codes are basically laws that were for slaves and slave owners. Some of these codes made it a crime to teach a slave how to read and how to write. Slaves were not allowed to own property of their own. They weren't allowed to uh, talk in private without the presence of a white person. And a lot of these slave codes were meant to separate blacks from whites, and it didn't apply too much to European servants and slaves. In fact, there was a law that was made where masters had to give the white servants land, food, and a gun when they served their time, making it easier for the masters to just buy black slaves instead. And that created an even bigger separation of blacks and the whites. Bacon's Rebellion was a rebellion against the Governor William Berkeley, and it was led by Nathaniel Bacon along with thousands of people that were from all races, all classes, slaves, Africans, European servants. And the European servants, Africans, they all teamed up to fight, and it ended up scaring plantation owners and led to slave codes being made to divide the races so the uprisings don't happen. So the colonial America's idea of race was that whites were superior to all other races, and the slave codes helped solidify the construction of colonial America. So the slave codes kept the Africans and the Europeans from, it divided them. So how did scientists who used anthropometric techniques explain human difference? Well, so how they did it was basically collect tons of skulls, and at first they filled it with mustard seed to determine the size of the skull inside it to see how big their brain was, because they believed that whoever had the bigger brain was more intelligent, which means they're more superior. But the thing is, this guy collected over thousands of skulls, but the ones he used on his research, so in most cases women are smaller than men, so he used black women's skulls and then white men's skulls, so that way that it would always say that, oh, Europeans are smarter. And basically how they explained human difference was that because white men's brains were bigger, they were the more superior race. So like I said earlier, the problems the scientists had with their data collection and analysis was that it wasn't really a fair, they weren't fair studies because of the skulls he had. So, and he did this skull thing, so he collected skulls from Native Americans, blacks, and Europeans, and It was just an unfair study because of. And so, what do these problems imply about the science's role in the social and historical creation of race? Well, these scientists were racist, and the outcome to their studies always showed that whites were superior. And the problem that it caused was that scientists, who were educated people looked up to because of their intelligence, they were solidifying or strengthening people's racist beliefs, making people more racist and making white people believe they're better than everyone else because scientists are saying they're the superior race and all that.